Hi everyone! Today I'm going to make a quick video showing you how I choose a good colour of pastel paper for the pastel painting that I want to create. So it depends on the subject matter and also a little bit on the effect that I want to achieve. So I hope you find this helpful. If you haven't already, please do subscribe to me here on YouTube and also check me out over on my Patreon channel for my full catalogue of full in-depth tutorials. Enjoy the video. So there are a lot of different pastel paper brands on the market, and each one is slightly different, mostly because of its texture and how the pastel applies onto the paper, but they also come in an array of different colours. And I haven't even tried all of the pastel paper brands on the market. That's something I'm working on at the moment, working on new papers and hoping to make some comparison videos in the future, giving you the pros and cons of lots of the different brands in the market. But today I'm just going to talk about the colour of paper. So each brand comes in usually an array of different colours, and it's knowing which colour would be best for the subject matter that you're going to paint. So I'll talk you through some examples of my work and tell you the paper colour that I used and why I chose that paper for that particular piece. But first let's have a look at a couple of the different pastel brands that I like to use and some of my favourite colours. So when I'm talking about the tone of the paper, I'm really talking about how light or dark the paper is. And they come in a range of different tones, so you can have mid-tone colours like these two, or some lighter tones, and on the other side of the scale you can go for a very dark ground to begin with. Most pastel artists tend to favour the mid-tones because you start in the middle and you can both go darker and lighter quite easily. It allows for both to happen. The main problem that I find on the darker papers is trying to get nice vibrant light colours on there. I find it quite overpowering, so I don't use the very dark grounds very often, but I have seen some beautiful work achieved using a dark ground. But mainly what I have in stock usually are these colours, and these three velour shades, the sandy colour, the light grey and the light yellow, are predominantly the main three colours that I've used for most of my work in the last 5 years or so. And just recently I've started using Pastelmat quite often, and I bought quite a lot of their brown colour, and I've been working on mostly brown animals on Pastelmat so far. So that's been a perfect colour, and I'll show you some examples of the work that I've done on these particular colours and why I chose to use a certain colour over another. So the first example I'll talk about is my Harris Hawk, who I've just finished. And I used Pastelmat for this, and you can see just around the edges, it's that lovely warm brown colour of Pastelmat that I showed you earlier. And you can sort of see why that was a good choice for this because of all the colours running through the hawk's feathers. And although I don't actually leave any gaps showing of the paper, it just helps your eye see the colours when you start from a mid-ground colour, something that you can see within the colours of the animal that you're working on. It definitely helps you see both the darker values and your lighter values, as opposed to starting on a blank white page. It definitely helps a lot. And the main thing I'm thinking of when I'm choosing between a warm mid-ground or something cooler like the grey colours, is how much warmth I want to come from my painting. So for example, in this one, it's very sunlit and I want it to have an underlying warmth. And even if you do cover the paper 100%, you will still get some kind of effect happening because of the colour of the paper that you used. So for example, when I'm trying to create a very warm blue sky, the best thing I find is actually to go for a good opposite colour to the blue, so something in the brown range or the sandy colours. Another example is my Portrush Harbour piece, recently finished, and I used the sandy coloured velour for that piece. And I just love using that colour underneath a really rich blue sky, as it gives a lot more warmth than using the grey paper. So you want to think sometimes about using an opposite colour underneath your painting to give it a nice warm glow. Or on the opposite scale, if you want it to have a cooler appearance, maybe there's no sunshine in the piece, it's a misty morning, something with a more, not dull, but a more muted appearance, then you might choose to use a mid-tone that has more grey in it. And again, even if you don't leave any gaps in the paper for it to show through, you will still get a slightly different effect from using that. Another good example then is for when you want to create an animal that has a lot of tan colour, so a lot of brown colours. Quite often I will go for my trusty velour in a sandy colour, and they do a couple of sandy colours and I love both of them. So it makes sense to me, if I'm painting something with a lot of tan or brown in it, that this is a good mid-tone to start with. Another favourite colour of mine in the Hahnemuhl Velour is the light yellow, and I possibly use this paper maybe even more than the sanded colour, which I love as well. If I'm ever painting a white animal or any scene that has a lot of sunlight in it, where areas are very much exposed and bright white with a lot of highlights, then this would be the paper that I choose, because it adds a lovely glow underneath my brightest highlights. It allows me to get really bright white on this that really glows. So I love this paper for a lot of my work where I want to get really vibrant highlights. A lot of the time when you're in art shops, you'll see pastel papers coming in pads a bit like this, and you'll get a range of different colours in there. And it's great to get a pad like this and experiment with working on different colours and see what works for different effects. But I always find that once I've found a few colours of paper that I like, it makes a lot more sense to then buy the individual sheets, as I always find that I end up with colours inside that I don't make use of. So that's just my basic way of choosing the pastel paper colour that's going to suit the piece. I pretty much just look for if there is a predominant colour running through the main subject, something close to a tone of paper that I have in the mid-tone range, or if I want to use a complementary colour to create a certain warmth or coolness to my piece. But there are other artists who work in an entirely different way from me, and you can use the colour of your pastel ground to great effect, and it's something that I haven't experimented with a lot. So I thought I would show you a few artist friends who work in a different way from me. The first one I'll start with is my good friend David Sweet and fellow pastelist, and he has prepared me one of the boards that he uses in his own work. And this is a homemade board using mount board, regular matte board, and then with his own mixture of gesso and pumice. And you can find recipes for this sort of thing anywhere online if you want to prepare your own pastel boards. And the nice thing about that is you can choose what colour you'd like it to be by mixing in some pastel pigment or some paint. And quite often David starts with quite a deep red colour, and it works to really great effect in his art. So let's have a look at a couple of examples. So the first one I'm going to show you is a picture of one of his daughters. And he starts with this really deep red background and his outline. And we'll flick through a little bit of progress, blocking in and blending in the next layers. A really lovely technique. And you can see how using that red undertone really affects the end lighting. And similar in one of his landscapes, that lovely deep red to begin with. And in the end, it does add a lovely richness. Even though he has covered most of the paper and blended most of it, it still has that lovely rich undertone. Another artist I'll mention is Gail Sibley, and she experiments a lot with using different coloured underpaintings as well as different ground colours. So you can learn a lot from her. She has a wonderful art blog. I'll add a link underneath the video. Do check that out if you'd like to experiment a little bit more with undercolour painting. So I have lots of new ideas to try out regarding using different coloured pastel surfaces, and I hope that this video has given you a few ideas to try it too. I hope I'll see you again soon. Until next time, happy pasteling.